Okay, so for dinner tonight, we are going to have French dip sandwiches and homemade hoagie buns. So I figured I'd start by showing you the roast that we got. I have a pork roast here because that's what I had in the freezer. And all it's doing is just sitting in the crock pot today, and it's got 4 cups of water and 2 of those packets of French onion soup. You can make your own French onion soup mix if you want to, but I happen to have it in the pantry and am going with it. So every hour or so I baste it, and I'll occasionally turn it over just to kind of make sure all of it's cooked. And just as long as you need it to cook, just let it go and it'll be there when the buns are done. Let's get those going. Alright, now it's time to get the hoagie rolls going. So you're going to need 2 cups of bread flour, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 cups of warm water, a tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of yeast. I use active dry yeast, and 2 teaspoons of salt. The yeast, I don't always proof it. I go ahead and just kind of add everything in and get it kneading. You're going to need the dough hook attachment if you've got a mixer. If not, your hands just kind of put the flour on the board, mix everything in the middle, and get to kneading. But let me get everybody in and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, all of it's in. It's all mixed together. And you know that you have enough flour and water together, because see, as it's going around, nothing sticks to the sides. It all is together in a ball, and it's all going around as one big piece. Some days it's going to be wet and you're going to need a little more flour, and some days maybe it'll be dry and you'll need just add a tablespoon at a time of water until it does like this. It doesn't stick to the sides and it's all together as one ball. So I'm going to let this go for about 5 minutes, just till it's all nice and soft, and you'll see that it gets real elasticy and it'll be a nice smooth dough ball. And then I've got a stainless steel bowl that I have oiled that I'm going to put it in and cover with a damp rag and let it rise for 1 hour or until it doubles in size. Sometimes if it's real humid outside or it's real hot outside like it is today, it won't take as long. So let me get that going, and after it's risen I'll show you what it looks like. It's been kneading for 5 minutes, and I've just put some olive oil in a big bowl, and I put a little on my hands just because the bread tends to be a little sticky, but it'll all come together and be one cohesive, smooth piece of dough. And that's it. So then I will coat it. I'll put it in the bowl, coat it, make sure it doesn't get all dry and form a crust on it. And then just take a damp rag and cover it for an hour. And we'll be back when it's risen. Rising for an hour. Well, a little less than an hour. It's really humid here in Florida, and I think it's going to rain. So it didn't take as long. But it is risen, and it is fluffy, and now it's time to shape them and make rolls out of them. Let me get Bessie out of the way. My mess. And I start, and I try not to knead it a whole lot because I don't want it to get real tough, because I don't want to have to let them rise again before I bake them. So I just lay it out and start cutting in pieces. And you can leave them like this and make them big, or you can cut them in half and make them small. Because these are for dinner and for sandwiches, I'm going to leave them relatively big and flat, so they're not super huge and humongous and you have a great big bun. So I just leave them just like that. Put them on I just sprayed a little bit of cooking spray on a baking sheet just so they don't stick, but you don't want a whole lot because you don't want them to burn either. So I leave them just like that. Let me get these done, and I'll show you before we get them in the oven. The meat has been cooking for 8 hours or so, and this is the juice that's left. And all I do with the roast is I take it out and I let it cool a little bit for me to be able to handle it, and then I cut it real thin and just add it back to the juice. So before I add all the meat back in, you taste it and see how you like it. I always add just a splash or two of Worcestershire sauce and a couple teaspoons of butter. And you can, if you want it to be more beefy, add some beef broth. If you want it more oniony, add onion powder. You can add whatever spices or however you like it. I just like a little bit of Worcestershire. Oh, I forgot. And a little bit of sugar. And I'm talking a baby spoon of sugar. Cuts the tanginess from the Worcestershire sauce. Because I like the flavor. I just don't want the tang. And then you have your family taste it and see if they like it, which my husband is going to taste. Since he's the one I have to please, he's the one that's got to make sure it's perfect. Baked. They were in for 25 minutes. I pulled them out and just put butter on the tops and got to let them cool. The meat, all I've done is just sliced it up and put it back in the crock pot and just kind of let it sit until the rolls have cooled down enough to eat. And then I just put a slice of provolone cheese, add the meat on top, and serve the dip on the side, and you're good to go.